I know it's very cold today according to Lucknow standards. Our friends from US will differ, but still it's cold and it's foggy. We were hoping for pleasant weather today even, but then this is a city of contrasts. It throws up surprises for you. So let us not delay any further. We'll begin with a few prayers to invoke the blessings of the Almighty, that in all our endeavors we remain blessed. So a special healing prayer for our founder manager sir, who's been sick. So, and of course another prayer which we will use often enough to remove all our difficulties. So for the chanting of the prayers, I invite Harsh.
Long enough to make us stop and retrospect.
तेरा नाम ही मेरा आरोग्य है, हे मेरे ईश्वर, तेरा स्मरण ही मेरी औषधि है, तेरा सामीप्य ही मेरी आशा, तेरा प्रेम ही मेरा सहचर है, मुझ पर तेरी अनुकंपा ही मेरी निरोग्यता, इहलोक तथा परलोक दोनों में मेरी आपद
And believe me, it
सहायक
just not comes only from non-achievers. There are very people who are academically brilliant.
सर्व प्रदाता सर्वज्ञ एवं सर्व प्रज्ञा, तेरा नाम ही मेरा आरोग्य है, हे मेरे ईश्वर, हे मेरे ईश्वर. O Lord my God, assist thy loved ones to be firm in thy faith, to walk in thy way, to be steadfast in thy cause. Give them thy grace to withstand the onslaught of self and passion, to follow the light of divine guidance. Thou art the powerful, the gracious, the self-subsisting, the bestower, the compassionate, the almighty, the all-bountiful. O Lord my God, assist thy loved ones to be firm in thy faith, to walk in thy ways, to be steadfast in thy cause.
Thank you, Harsh, for that melodious and I think heart-touching prayer. And let us not delay any further, and as we move on into the proceedings of the day, I invite my co-chair, Mrs. Jayashree Krishnan, to take her place there. She's the principal of CMS Rajendranagar 3 campus. This program has a wonderful speaker on board. You heard him yesterday, Jeff Smith. He has the very special ability. If you were here yesterday, he identifies the animal inside you. And then he catches hold of it and then turns it into a human. So It gives me great pleasure to invite Mr. Jeff Smith as a speaker today. We also have, another great speaker, the people who attended his workshops yesterday, Mr. Deepak Dalal, and you know him, you're familiar with his name also. Well, he identifies real animals. So it's not the animal inside you, it's the animal outside. He'll let you know a lot of things about what he's been doing and what work exactly it is. And I will deal with I'll let you know the topic once he's here with us. So please come and take your seats so that we can begin with the proceedings. While this is on, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Jeff Smith because our audience is new over here. Mr. Jeff Smith is a BA Honours, PGC and PQH. He's a visionary head teacher, speaker, author and consultant whose passion is the development of a healthy character in children and young people. As the current head teacher of Kehlan Primary School and founder member of the UK Association of Character Education, he supports other schools via his training company, WINE, Virtues in Education, which has delivered high-quality character education programs to a growing number of schools in the UK. His 28 years' experience of character development as a teacher and school leader was recognized in 2015 by Birmingham University, who commissioned him to write the Primary Character Curriculum, the first publication of its type for primary schools in the UK. This led to an interview on BBC Breakfast Time television and invitations to speak at events such as the Festival of Ideas at Cambridge University, the Wild and Well Education Festival, and the Character Scotland Education Conference. In 2017, an increasing governmental emphasis on character skills in schools led publishers Rising Stars to commission Jeff and his WINE colleague Shona Pai to write Character Education, the Star Awards program, which was published in October 2018. He is a Virtues Project Master Facilitator and has served on the board of the Virtues Project International, a global grassroots initiative honored by the United Nations during the International Year of the Family as a model global program for families of all cultures. His educational work has been praised by educational commentators such as Alan de Botton, philosopher and author, and Lord O'Shaughnessy, founder of Laureate Education and member of the House of Lords. Please put your hands together for such a distinguished speaker today. And he will be speaking on, I don't know what he's going to find today inside, but he says, can you see the tree within the tiny seed? So please.
Thank you so much for that lovely welcome. And once again, it's fantastic to be at CMS here in Lucknow. It's the first time, my second day in India. It's just been so exciting. I'm just overcome with how wonderful everything is, particularly the food. The food is incredible. And everybody says, is it? It is, yeah. When you come from Britain, the food is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So yesterday I spoke briefly about responsible citizenship, and we looked at the analogy of gems in the mine, how they're unpolished when they first come up, and it's the teachers or parents who polish the gems, the children, their virtues, their capacities, and then everybody can see how valuable they are. But when they're unpolished, people can't see. But you teachers, you educators, you're the ones that see these potentialities. You're the ones who can see the tree in the seed, all these virtues. It's what teachers are good at doing, aren't they? We can see the children. Some children have I looked at how humanity had, domesticated the wolf with all negative qualities and transformed them into the qualities that we see in the domestic dog, the things that we appreciate. And these are my cuddly puppets. I like to think of them as my eternal first intake class. All the problems they present, the dominance of the wolf cub, the boisterousness of the sheepdog. The sheepdog I didn't talk about yesterday, but all you educators and teachers, have you had children like this in your class? This dog, its quality is to retrieve things. You throw something, it brings it back to you. Now, have you had a child like that in your class? You've prepared a wonderful worksheet. You think this will keep them busy for at least an hour. You give it to the child. 5 minutes later, they're back at your desk with this worksheet. I finished. They retrieve. How can you possibly have finished? And this, I don't know if you've also experienced this particular child, this sheepdog type child. You teach the lesson, right? You say, well, first we're going to do this, and then secondly we're going to do that, and then the third thing we'll do is this. And then you look around, and the sheepdog child, they're teaching the children something completely different. Have you ever had that? Oh no, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and all the children are gathered around them. And yeah, I've come across this character. I'm sure you have too. But if you work with that potentiality, they become your best friend in the classroom, don't they? They're the ones who will get in there early, sharpen all the pencils for you, put out the paper for you, and it's like having another teacher in the classroom. Have you had a child like that in your class? You've all experienced them, yeah. It's wonderful. Okay. So, and we talked about how this virtue is on a sliding scale. At one extreme, there's recklessness. At the other extreme, there's cowardice. But in the middle is Aristotle's golden mean, courageousness. Virtue exists on this continuum, okay? And we see that with the sheep, the uniformity, on the other end, the isolation, but in the middle, the thing that the sheep is good at is unity, keeping everybody in the same flock. And our little hedgehog, some of the educators told me that you have hedgehogs here too, and these little hedgehog children, they're very prickly. They curl up into a ball. The slightest thing you say to them. But, the thing they're good at is sensitivity and empathy. They've suffered, these children. They know. And if you can see that potentiality within them, it's something you can do to help them in their life. So my presentation today is, can you see the tree within the tiny seed? And my wife was going to accompany me to India, but she was unable to do so because she's looking after her mother, who's been very poorly. But my wife was inspired by one of the key phrases of the Virtues Project, which is the gifts within. And she wrote this song. It's called The Whole Me. And it's this song is from the perspective of the child or the embryo. The child in this song is asking you, you'll find the whole me. Can you see the whole me inside? Inside. So the words are, one cell that keeps on dividing. That's the embryo, right? Latent power mirrored inside. A whole well of potential in hiding. A vein of jewels in the deepest part. You find the whole me right there waiting. Now I'm hoping I can trigger the sound. Will it play? Thank you. I don't know. Okay, it's not going to play. Never mind. So, it may be that I haven't associated the MP3 with it. I was excited last night and I put it together. While we're waiting, when I first started teaching, my first day in the classroom, I couldn't control the children. It's not playing. No, it's not playing. I couldn't control the children, and I was so frustrated. I picked up this big encyclopedia, and I banged it down on the table as hard as I could to shock them into paying attention. I realized that this idea that I had that I could go in and educate children wasn't the whole story. I needed to change how I behaved, and that's when I discovered the Virtues Project, which saved my life, really. Anyway, to virtues. What virtue, maybe on the tables, what virtue is the cat showing? Patience? Hiding away? Okay. Patience. Dedication. Determination. Focus. Self-discipline. What virtues does the cat need to show from the point of view of the mouse? That's cunning? Yes, very cunning. But if you were the mouse inside, what virtues would you like the cat to practice for you? Compassion, absolutely, yeah. Definitely. Now let me ask you a question. What values does the cat have? Well, I thought about it last night. You know, I couldn't detect any values that the cat has. What virtues is he practicing? Restraint, self-control, obedience. Is he showing? What set of values does he have? Self-discipline is a virtue. Okay, by the way, I'm not criticizing values. Values are wonderful things. I'm just exploring the fact that virtues are elemental, indivisible, whereas values are more complex structures that are built with virtues, at least to my understanding. And this is an embryo, or it's a stylized representation of a human embryo. So let me ask you again, folks, what virtues is the embryo showing? Or what virtues is the embryo? What virtues are pervading the embryo, if you like, or driving it? Unity? Sorry? Patience? Yes, it's going to take 9 months of patience. Sorry? Imperative to grow? Yes, I'd say that's probably... Well, Aristotle, our earliest virtues scholar that we know about, said that all beings, all entities are driven by a bundle of potentialities. And that these potentialities manifest themselves over time, and they're the driving engine of any creature. They drive it forward. And you can see that virtues here, orderliness, the orderly multiplication of the cells, the unity, purposefulness, not in a conscious way, but that potentiality is driving the embryo towards its ultimate destiny. Resilience, yes. So can you see the tree within the tiny seed? Because as educators, that's your job, isn't it? That's what you're going to see. And when you see that tree within that seed, what are you going to do about it? Good morning, good morning.
Welcome to India.
Welcome, thank you very much.
Chairman. Oh, Jawaharlal.
So one of the things I wanted to do was differentiate between virtues and values. You see, values are culture specific, and they're also specific to families. At my school, we have farming families, and their values are get up early in the morning, work hard, play hard, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. We have artistic families, and a generalization I know, but I would say that their values tend to be creativity, being an individual, expressing yourself. And the values are different. If you have a family of robbers, of thieves, their values may be very different. They may be being able to rob somebody's house and not get caught by the police. So values can be good, they can be bad. But virtues are, well, they're universal. If you go to the bank and you ask, how much money have I got? Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a criminal or whether you're a saint, you want an honest answer. If you go to have an operation with a brain surgeon, You expect your brain surgeon to practice cleanliness, whether you're a saint or a robber. So those virtues are universal, and they cannot be divided down. Whereas values like, say, resilience, I think is a value really, because it's made of virtues such as patience, flexibility, determination. So, can you see the tree within the tiny seed? I hope this video will play. I'm sure you've seen it many times, so I do apologize for that. But it's the first video I showed on the first day of being a head teacher to my staff. And I only just realized that it's called The Tree. It was a video from the Times of India. And I've only just realized what the tree was last night. So I'm hoping this will play. Can we click on could you click on the blue link? Can we? Oh, it's on the next slide. Here we go. Please play. Is it going to play? No, it's not going to play.
Seashore, and you go into the slightly deeper water. You got the small boats with this, it's not exists. I mean, they wouldn't come earlier, but they built this dam in.
Well, in your internal video player,
the cheetah.
can you visualize a little boy? He's in the rain, and the traffic has stopped in a busy street in India. The tree has fallen across the road.
Are changing into
You seen this video?
cities.
And everybody's saying, they were looking at their phones, reading their paper, they don't want to know. And I think there's
Get a
even
parent.
somebody says, I hate this country.
The parent can do it for
And
you.
the little boy looks at it and he takes
Who really
his
loves
backpack off.
books.
And he goes over the tree and he starts pushing the tree. And people are laughing and not paying any attention. But then somebody's heart is moved because
They're
they can
part of the
see the
Vikram that you're
determination
saying.
that
But
he's showing. And very soon other small children join in and they push the tree. And then the adults are ashamed of their lack of commitment and they go in too. And soon everybody's pushing the tree and the tree gets moved out of the way. You've seen this video? It's very moving, isn't it? I showed it to my staff, they teared up. And there we go. But I only just realized what the tree was. What is the tree? It's the boy, isn't it? The tree in the road is the dead tree trunk. The tree is that potentiality. He's kind of realized he's the fruit of the tree is his determination to improve things, to make things change. It just hit me last night. Didn't realize. So virtues and values, yes. Virtues, I don't know if you can read that. Can you see that? Virtues are external. They're created outside of us. They exist independently of us, whereas values are internal, what people decide to make their own priorities in life. Virtues are objective, a matter of fact. Values are subjective. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that one. Yesterday I shared with you that
Long enough to make us stop and retrospect,
I want to go back
introspect.
to the song that my wife wrote. I wish I could. This verse, it says, time's passed. So this is the song about this embryo, this child. Once it's had a few years of life, 10, 20 years. Time has passed and the layers are growing. Dust on my soul and a
They're part of the
veil
Vikram
around my
Aditya series,
eyes.
but they're standalone novels.
The soul becomes veiled, doesn't it? By
So,
pain,
yeah.
by suffering, by prejudice. But if we dig deep, we'll find the virtues. It said, dig deep, you'll find virtues I'm showing.
Get a parent.
A rough diamond so
Yeah.
thinly disguised.
The parent
So
can
you will
do it for you.
encounter people, won't you? You'll encounter children who have already been stained by prejudice, to have veils around them already, but it's our job as educators to reach in, to unlock the potential, to reach the freshness.
Long enough to make us stop
The thing that
and
Pastor talked about, that
retrospect,
driving motor that
introspect,
drives something
and
towards
think.
its expression, towards its fruition, towards the acorn that becomes the oak tree. Okay, and I believe that the powerful tool that we have to do that is when we give a child meaningful recognition. Now, I want to ask you folks, when was the last time that you had meaningful recognition? When did somebody give you meaningful recognition? Because for most people, they don't have meaningful recognition, and that's what leads to them becoming parched like this landscape that we see. And the founder of the Virtues Project, Linda Kavelin-Popov, she said that at some point, almost every child, youth, and adult was parched for meaningful recognition. I see parents in my playground at my school, they say to their children, I love you, you're a star, you're awesome, you're wonderful. And of course, parents should say those things, but when they continue to repeat them, they become meaningless. Just in the same way that when we're teachers in school and we say, good boy, good girl, it becomes meaningless. It loses its meaning. And virtue, the language of virtue, is our tool to give children meaningful recognition. It's that drop of moisture that drops onto this hardened clay and melts it, cracks it, allows growth to take place. Linda Kavelin-Popov said that language shapes our character, and the way we speak has the power to discourage or to inspire. So the language of virtue has 3 modalities. And I think teachers have 3 modalities that I recognize. Teachers guide, teachers acknowledge or praise, and teachers correct. Is that right? Would you say? We guide children, don't we? We educate them, teach them. That's a form of guidance, isn't it? We acknowledge them when they've got it right. We give them praise or we thank them, whatever it is. And we correct them if they misunderstand something. And this is what virtues language does. It allows us to do those 3 things. And it allows us to emotionally connect with this internal motor that children have, this bundle of potentialities, these virtues that they have inside them. And not just children, each other. Now, I'm going to go to patience because that was what those 2 animals were showing, wasn't it? At the beginning, they were showing patience. And I've tried to take the language of virtue and just apply it to patience, because that's an important thing in schools, isn't it? We're all trying to encourage our children to be patient. I have a feeling you can't read from back there. Can you read it? The teachers at my school said, Mr. Smith, we don't know what to say. We don't know what the language of virtue is around patience. So we wrote this together. And so I've split it into the very early years. Phrases that you would use in kindergarten to guide, praise, and correct. So the first one is a guidance phrase. Remember to be patient. Don't rush or overtake. To praise the child or acknowledge them. You're waiting so patiently. Well done. Thank you for being patient and for waiting for me to pick you. Thank you for raising your hand and waiting for me to pick you. And then the correction. When you need to correct a child who's perhaps calling out the answer, you might say, please remember to call on your patience by raising your hand and waiting for me to pick you. And then in year 1 and year 2, the language that we might need to use is guidance. Be patient. It will soon be your turn to speak. Please wait patiently. Your turn will come. The praise. I can see your patience because you're not interrupting or talking. I'm going to pick you for this activity because I can see your patience in the way you're sitting and listening. And the correction. This might be when a child's shouting out the answer and you don't want them to do that, or I can see your patience because, the correction. Can you remember what a patient listener looks like? Please be patient with your friends rather than getting cross with them. Maybe the child has run up to the front of the line, maybe skip the queue. Please go back to the beginning and show me how patient you can be by walking calmly. So I won't read through the rest of it, folks, but this virtues language, it is so important because not only does it allow us to unlock the potentiality within the child, to bring them back to the virtue they need to be practicing, it's also a safety for us as teachers. Now, I can remember Many years ago when I started teaching, there are what I respectfully call old school teachers who would tell it like it is. They'd say to a child when they were, perhaps the child had been untruthful about something, they'd say, "I won't have you lying to me. I don't have any lying in this class," that kind of language. And of course, you then get very angry parents coming in, don't you? And they say, "Are you calling my child a liar?" And it can be a very traumatic experience for a teacher to experience a very angry parent that comes in. But if you've got a child that's been untruthful, and you use the language of virtue to correct them, well, maybe on your table, maybe you could just discuss on your table, rather than shaming and naming a child, naming and shaming them, what could you say? How could you call them back to their virtue? Could I just give you a minute to discuss that, folks? Thank you. Okay, have a minute, I'll come back to it. Yes, okay, so, well, I hope you've had time to think about that, but to call a child back to the virtue of truthfulness, rather than saying, "I won't have you lying to me, don't ever lie again," the virtues language would be, "I need you to practice truthfulness." Or, "Today you didn't practice truthfulness. What will you do differently tomorrow?" "I'll practice truthfulness, thank you." So it's that kind of emphasis on looking at the virtue that's being practiced or not being practiced, not at the child. It's naming the virtue, not shaming the child. That's so important. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm so sorry, I misinterpreted that thank you as it being the end. But then, like I was in a bit of a panic because there's a, ma'am, you want to ask a question? Yeah, we can go for 5 minutes because there's a performance and the children have to leave because they have their schedule. No, 5 minutes we can give while they arrange the stage. Yes? 5 minutes.
We welcome our respected founder director, Dr. Bharti Gandhi, ma'am. She is here to bless us all, and she would like to speak something to all of you. Yes, ma'am.
My dear chairman and chairwoman rather, we are used to say only man, but now woman is also there. So this is also part of, your character building thing, because in books also we will find always not he, but sometimes she also. This is something which I have been thinking. Today I am with you. It is my pleasure, rather greatest pleasure, to be with Mr. Dalal and Mr. Geoffrey Smith and the Value Education Project proprietors, representative, the Virtue Guide, and so many my friends, and I see in all of you to be a great teacher. And the teacher, according to me, is the highest service. They say, among the greatest of all the great services which a man can possibly render to Almighty God is education of children, building their character and inculcating in their tender hearts the love of God. Even the scientist Einstein, whom we, recognize in this age, because he is the person, they say that he could use 10% of his intelligence, while we use only 3 to 5% of our intelligence. And our goal is to use our 100% intelligence, then what the man will become. So these are scientific things, and we really love scientists very much. The scientist of the age, Einstein, said try not to become a man of success. Rather, try to become a man of values. And also, in one of the writings I read, knowledge is praiseworthy only when it is knowledge is praiseworthy only when it is coupled with ethical conduct. Otherwise, it is a deadly poison. So we teachers are a living book, open book rather. We are open book. So our even, when I was a student, I used to admire my English teacher, Miss Ram. I don't know why. She was my, in my hearts of hearts, even I dreamt of her. So she was, I never found her, in a different picture which I have in my mental image, okay? So always focusing on that picture. So I think our students also value us in that particular way. So my dear friends, we are all here to recognize our own inner self, how we dedicate ourselves by in the class. Sometimes we, introspect ourselves. For example, we have read, strain every nerve to acquire both inner and outer perfection, because the tree of humanity is decked with knowledge, wisdom, spiritual perception, and eloquent speech. So here again, inner self, inner self. I really admired, our friend from UK. He was telling how to praise a child. We do our duty, oh, very good, great, wonderful, and our job is finished. No, be specific. So all these things we are learning from you, and I thank you very much. In CMS, we try to build up the children's character, character or personality, or whatever you say. That is, he has to become the embodiment of peace. That means stop war in the world. To bring, for that purpose, say, we want to bring in the world that world government and world army, one army. When there is one army, the money spent on armaments in all the countries of the world will be saved, and all the human beings on this earth will enjoy the minimum standard of living, that is, roti, kapda, makan, and education, and doctors. So this is the goal which we are reaching, and it is inside the inner self which says that how we bring this thing to stop war in the world. And as Mahatma Gandhi used, he was self-appointed leader for himself to bring India, to make India free. And it was his inner voice. Nobody appointed him, go and make India free. He was self-appointed person, and he said, my mission is to make India free, and my instruments, my weapons will be non-violence. And we are, honored in the world by having his 1 year of non-violence celebrated all over the world these days. And we are so inspired because of that. Similarly, our children, what they will go do in their life. So we teach them that you have to bring peace in the world, you have to stop war in the world, and your instrument, your weapon will be Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat means good of the world. Jai Jagat means jeet ho jahan ki, na kisi ki haar ho. The whole world is victorious and nobody is subjuged. Win-win situation. The whole world is victorious. जीत हो जहान की ना किसी की हार हो, सब लोग विन विन हैं. Nobody is, if the two country fight, one is winner and one is loser. Here nobody is loser, everybody is winner. So in this way we try to teach our children say Jai Jagat. And do you know this Babri Masjid issue, you must have heard it has been, so much popular, so much rather remembered by everybody as a very bad day in the history of India. So what happened when they were demolishing this? There were all over in all the cities of India, there were casualties and death and all that. But in Lucknow was the only city where there was no casualty. And it is so near Ayodhya still. And this, this action has been attributed to the moral education of City Montessori School in Lucknow. So to all over in Lucknow, there was nothing like that. Why? When I was in USA and my daughter Sunita was there in the World Bank, so she made me speak in the IMF, International Monetary Fund, people. So I was very frightened. What I will speak, I will go away and people will laugh at you, what your mother said. So no, mommy, you don't talk on any economics or anything. You only talk on the primary education in City Montessori School. I said, all right, I will talk. So they made me speak and I talked. I said, what should I talk for primary? So there was only 25 minutes time to speak. They are very meticulous in Americans. They will not waste even 1 minute of their time for all this humbug. So they made me speak during lunch time. And the lunch was served and the bearers were having all these white gloves on. Everybody is eating and I'm not eating, I'm speaking. So that 25 minutes time was given to me and I was speaking. And I said, look friends, what can I talk? Everything is on the top in your country. You are so much far ahead in intellectual attainments in education, even in physical education. You are winners of so many, laurels. But I will talk only of moral education in my City Montessori School in Lucknow, in the primary section. So I gave my few things which I could give quickly because time was so less. Then they are very fond of question hour. So there was a question hour. So they asked, after listening to my all this, lengthy or small, whatever, hi-fi talk, they said, okay, tell me, Mrs. Gandhi. This was no less than John Huddleston. He said, asked that, Mrs. Gandhi, will you please tell what is the impact of moral education of City Montessori School in your city of Lucknow? Oh my God, I was taken so aback. They are practical people. They are people who know only to, translate everything into action. So I was really taken aback. Immediately, God gave me the power. I said, look, in CMS at that time, the 16 years have passed for City Montessori School. Now it is 60 years have passed. So that time only it was 16 years had passed that time. So I said, look, my school has got this motto of Jai Jagat and during 16 years and there were only that time 16,000 children. So I said, now it is 56,000. So I said, these 60,000 students of mine, they influence the city of Lucknow because each student is responsible at least 10 people in the in family or in their neighborhood. So if you turn it into 16 into 10, it becomes 16 lakh something like that, and then added into 16 years. My school has been there for 16 years, so it comes to so many lakhs. I calculated that time, I don't remember now. That was about 36 lakhs, something like that. So I thought the population of Lucknow that time was only 12 lakhs. So 36 times they have been giving these lessons. So the injection of Jai Jagat has been injected in the populace of Lucknow about 3 times so far. So when this demolition took place and all these casualties and all these were happening all over India, but Lucknow was saved. So then he wrote down a letter which I printed in one of my prospectus, that the impact of education, moral education in City Montessori School was responsible for not having peace in the city during those riots that time. And it has also been published, made a research by the Oxford University, 50 stories of peacemaking success. It was printed there also, and there also a very thick book on communities building in Europe, where it is also been narrated. So if you do a single act of goodness, niceness, so my children are victorious, and in the way they were very shy sometimes to say Jai Jagat.